In case you've been living under a rock without an internet connection, you should know that Nintendo recently published more details about their Switch Online service coming this September. This service will cost you $20 a year, or 36 cents a month if you and 7 other buddies want to exploit that family membership, and will come with cloud saves. You will be required to pay for this service if you want to keep playing online games like Splatoon 2 or Sushi Striker. However, the biggest piece of news to come from this wave of information are the classic NES games you'll receive with this service. 20 will be available at launch in September, but they only announced 10 so far. Soccer, Tennis, Donkey Kong, Mario Bros, Super Mario Bros, Super Mario Bros 3, Balloon Fight, Ice Climber, Dr. Mario, and The Legend of Zelda. More will be added periodically, but Nintendo hasn't specified how periodically. This raised the question on if this will replace the Virtual Console, a feature that we Nintendo fans have been begging for. Kotaku was wondering this as well, and wrote to Nintendo asking for clarification. Here's what they replied. There are currently no plans to bring classic games together under the Virtual Console banner, as has been done on other Nintendo systems.
You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Whoa, take it easy there, Charlton. There's a lot we can infer from this statement. For one, the spokesperson claimed that there are currently no plans for Virtual Console, and things can change in the future. But we're fairly certain that the term Virtual Console, coined in the successful Wii era of Nintendo, is as good as dead. Nevertheless, we already know that we're getting 20 NES games on the Nintendo Switch come September. So, relax guys, you're going to be able to play these classic games on your hybrid handheld system, and with enhanced online play too. The best part about this whole ordeal is that you'll only need to pay $20 to keep them for a whole year, and more will most likely be added within that year. Let's put it this way. If you were to buy 20 NES games for the first time on the Wii or Wii U Virtual Console, you'd be spending about $100, since most NES games came in at around $5. $20 for all these games for 1 year is the definition of a steal. Which brings us to the subject and title of this video. Is Nintendo Switch Online better than Virtual Console? The answer to this is that it could be. As it stands right now, the lineup of NES games coming to the Nintendo Switch is nowhere near as massive or diverse as a straight Virtual Console would be. They are only NES games, and there's only going to be 20 of them at launch. How often Nintendo updates this library and with what will truly determine the value of the classic game collection provided with Nintendo Switch Online. We're betting that the library will continue being updated with first-party NES titles like Zelda 2, Metroid, and even classics like the first Final Fantasy. We wouldn't be surprised if every game available on the NES Classic eventually made their way to the Nintendo Switch. How often the classic game collection would receive more software is also important. Correct us if we're wrong, but we remember the Virtual Console library on Wii and Wii U being updated almost weekly, or bi-weekly. We would like it if Nintendo Switch Online would update their classic selection with maybe a new game every week, or 5 or 10 games every month. It's hard to say right now. The monthly option is the most likely formula Nintendo is going for, as it is similar to PlayStation Plus's Instant Game Library and Xbox Live's Games with Gold. Now, if only Nintendo could imitate their voice chat options, that would be great! Bitterness aside, let's go back to the pricing that we mentioned earlier. You're getting 20 NES games in the first month of a year-long membership that will cost you $20. I don't think it can be stated enough how much of a great deal this is. That is a third of what you'd be paying for a year of PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold. But the thing with those services are that the games they offer you are much newer. Whenever I see anyone complaining about Switch Online, I have to remind them that it is literally $1.67 a month. Not to say their complaints aren't totally unjustified, as you could argue that you would rather pay more per year in exchange for more features or a better service. Granted, we don't know how different playing the Switch Online is going to be come September, so we should save our criticisms for when the service actually comes out. But we do know that there is an elephant in the room. A big one, being that the only games confirmed for this service are NES ones so far. It can't just be those games. It would be a huge disservice to only include classic games from the NES era and not the other generations of Nintendo consoles. Fortunately, there is hope, since they stated about a year ago that SNES games would be under consideration. Ah yes, that dreaded C word. Let us hope it turns into the other C word. Confirmed. So what about the other consoles? Nintendo 64, GameCube, hell, maybe even Wii? Sadly, the most we can do about this is speculate. We fantasized about the idea of GameCube games coming to the Switch, but that seems more like a pipe dream at this point. The fact that Nintendo took this long to give us any information about Virtual Console or classic games on the Switch doesn't inspire much confidence. The Big N has a lot to prove when it comes to the classic game collection being a Virtual Console replacement, because this new service has a ton of potential. Think about it. 1 or 2 years from now, we could have a gigantic collection of NES, SNES, and maybe, hopefully, Nintendo 64 titles on our Switches for the low admission price of $20 a year, or 36 cents a month if you exploited that family membership like the dirty cheat you are. A part of us feels like this is too good to be true, but we're already getting 20 NES games in the first month of launch. Who's to say this number won't go up exponentially within the next year? While we did fantasize about playing GameCube games on the Switch, we also fantasized about a Nintendo Netflix. The latter is getting closer to becoming a reality. Let's be honest guys, we've been clamoring for Virtual Console on the Switch just as long as you have. But how great was Virtual Console to begin with? When it started on the Wii, it was incredible, giving you access to NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64 titles along with the Sega Master System, the Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, and even Neo Geo games. What? Then came the Wii U era, which was less impressive. Gone were the Segas and the TurboGrafx's. Virtual Console was restricted to Nintendo's consoles, with the addition of Game Boy Advance and DS games. Oh, but Nintendo 64 games didn't come until 2015. 3 years after the console released, and 2 years before its inevitable death by Switchblade. Not to mention, the pricing for these games were still not generous, with Wii owners having to pay a small fee to upgrade to the Wii U versions of their Virtual Console titles, and they somehow looked worse on the Wii U. All things considered, maybe it was best for Nintendo to abandon the Virtual Console and start fresh with the Switch classics. In many ways, Switch Online is beginning with blank pages, a return to the crudest, simplest form of Nintendo gaming, the NES. The question is, what other NES titles, like Metroid, will appear, and when will the massive SNES library that was on the Wii and Wii U show up on the Switch? Our bet is that the addition of SNES games will be determined by how well Switch Online does and how often the NES games are downloaded. Supply and demand, people.
Okay, so what do we really think about the Nintendo Switch Online solution when it comes to retro games?
I think it's an exciting way to play retro games because that you actually can play them multiplayer online. That opens a unique way to play retro games, because a lot of us that at least grew up with it, we've moved far away from each other, have gotten kids. Now we can actually play together again like we used in the old days. So I kind of like the solution.
It's a good solution, but it's kind of limited. It's just NES games at the moment, 20 games, and we're missing titles such as Metroid, Zelda 2, and many other NES classics.
Yeah, and they have a tendency to kind of ignore the Metroid series. I was actually quite surprised when they announced both a 3DS game and Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the first time since we got the Virtual Console that we're just starting with NES games.
Yeah.
We don't have SNES games, and I think some of the reason might be because of this thing.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't seen the sales numbers of these things, but the NES Classic was rare before it hit the shelves. And I think they're producing so much of these consoles and are surprised themselves how good they sell, because the rumors about the N64 Classic,
Especially now with Ocarina of Time having its 20th anniversary this year.
it just makes sense that it will come.
Nintendo will probably just expand the NES games for the first half year.
Yeah.
Maybe by Christmas add SNES games. Though that might be a little bit too soon as well, because this service is first going live in September.
Yeah.
So I don't think we could see SNES games until 2019 probably. And when it comes to N64, I guess we'll just have to wait, maybe even as far as 2020, because they obviously would want to sell the N64 Mini.
And I would love if that's an E3 review.
That would be cool. Very cool.
That would get my blood boiling.
Yeah.
That they actually unveil a retro thing at something like E3. Yeah.
We are now at Retro Spillmessen, the final day, and I'll also be staying a few days with Jan, so he will also be joining us for the next video.
But as always, we'd like to hear from you. What do you think about the Nintendo Switch Online service? Do you think it has potential to become better than the Virtual Console? Sound off in the comment section below. If you liked this video, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new for more Nintendo related content. And please hit that notification bell to be alerted when we upload a new video regarding the Nintendo Switch, Super Smash Bros, and more. We'd also like to thank our patrons, including royal producer Kenyatta Ali, for their contributions to the realm. If you'd like to support us financially in exchange for some awesome perks, visit patreon.com/commonrealm. In the meantime, girls and guys, this has been the Commonwealth Realm, and we will see you in the next one.